Welcome to No Nonsense Nonprofits. I'm Sandy Ray of Sandra E. Ray CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. And today I'm so pleased to have back with us Alicia Mathis. Welcome.
Hello.
We'll be talking about donation rules, requirements, and best practices. Alicia is, for those of you who don't know her, she's the founder of Mathis Nonprofit Services. She has 15 years of experience working with nonprofit organizations. Her emphasis is fundraising, and she was a program director at a small nonprofit where she learned all of her experience and wanted to help other small nonprofits get started and develop their infrastructure and their leadership skills. She's the author of I Have My 501c3, Now What? Your Blueprint to Start Your Nonprofit Without Being the Sole Funder. She hosts the Nonprofit Founders Podcast. She manages many Facebook groups, including the Nonprofit Founders Club. And I want to thank you, Alicia, for coming back and giving us such great advice.
You're welcome. It's good to be here. I always enjoy our talks.
So we're talking about the essentials of attracting and engaging donors. So if you don't mind, I'll just dive into the first question.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. What are some of the common challenges that are faced by nonprofits when trying to attract new donors?
Okay, well, I'm going to give you 3 that are across the board and especially for new nonprofits. And then I'm going to give you one that I think is really affecting nonprofits right now. It's timely. So starting with the first one is limited resources and budget constraints. Nonprofits, doesn't matter how big or small, you're going to operate on a tight budget, and that will limit your marketing and your outreach capabilities. So, because, everyone wants the money to go where it needs to go, to the programs, but you also have to have some money set aside to do some of this other outreach and get more money in. So one of the things that even the big boys use that can be adapted to smaller nonprofits is to leverage your social media, leverage your website. Those things are either free or already paid for, and they're there. Make sure that you're utilizing them. And then, collaborating with local businesses or other nonprofits to help share the costs or the resources, that can be a big game changer for you too. And then the next challenge is building trust and credibility. And that's especially true for small nonprofits because they don't have the track record. They don't have those things that donors look for. And it's really important that potential donors see that you use your funds effectively. And so the best thing you can do is to be transparent about finances. Regularly share success stories, the impact of the contributions that you are getting in, and just maintain an open communication with your stakeholders. And I know I hear it all the time with small nonprofits, new nonprofits, but what if we don't have success stories? Well, you do. You just have to look for them. So it might be, we have received our IRS determination letter. Put that out there. Let people know, yes, you are now tax exempt under the 501c3, code. And let them know, because one, that gives you instant credibility. Websites and your 501c3, I don't know what it is, but it seems to give instant credibility. So you've got that. And then if you let them know, if you filed for your 501c3, you'll be able to speak to this better than I can. It's either 24 or 25 months from incorporation. The tax exemption is retroactive back to the incorporation date. If you let them know that the donations are now tax exempt, even the ones further back, and then start issuing them tax receipt, that can start building some credibility. So, look for the little things. You may not think that it's something that needs to be shared, but building that organization and showing people that you're building it properly is going to go a long way.
Just to speak to that ways to show financial transparency, because I get calls all the time from really small organizations that, they're just filing a 990N. They don't have a budget of more than 50,000, and they're like, how do we get an audit? And I'm like, you can't afford an audit.
Right.
It's too expensive. You have to look for other ways to build that transparency and that trust in the donors. So I appreciate those tips.
Yeah. And, if you have a money handling policy and you just let your donors know, I wouldn't let everybody know, but just let your donors know that you do have a policy in place. Sometimes that can help alleviate some fears because people just want to know that their money's going to where they think it's going. And so moving into the third challenge is differentiating from other organizations. I see this so many times where founders just don't know or understand how they are different. And this is important because the nonprofit sector is crowded. In 2016, there's a statistic that there were 60,000 nonprofits formed a month in 2016. That's
Wow.
a lot of competition because that somewhere in there, the ideas aren't different. I don't know how they could be that different. So clearly articulating a unique mission and vision, and then using your storytelling to highlight the organization's impact is going to really help you build trust, credibility. And when you differentiate yourself from other organizations and you show people how your solution is different, it's going to attract people.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to give back to school backpacks every time. They want something different, right?
Right.
And then the last thing, which is, I think, affecting all nonprofits right now, is economic uncertainty. Economic downturns happen all the time, and it can result in reduced donations and shifting donor priorities. And when you consider that most donors, they will donate from disposable income, whenever inflation goes up, whenever cost of living goes up, that pot of money shrinks.
Right.
But the need doesn't. So you're going to see that. And I have been hearing this from other nonprofits that it's not been a good year donation wise.
No, it's not like COVID where a lot of the governmental entities came out with grants to help with this or help with that, help with accessibility, or even the SBA loans. That those aren't happening because there's not something like COVID. It's different than 2020.
Right. And any nonprofit that's been around, we've seen the highs and the lows. We navigate those things. And a lot of nonprofits until 2020 had not seen a dramatic downturn. I think the last one was when the real estate bubble burst in 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. So you don't understand how to deal with it. And so the best strategy is to diversify your funding sources. And you should do that in good times and in bad. So, grants aren't your only option. And really, they should be about 20% of your budget if you're over 3 years old. And you should be building towards that 20%. Corporate sponsorship, there's individual donors, 3/4 of all contributions to a nonprofit, no matter how big or small, should be from individual donors. So you've got all these different sources that you can come up with that's going to help. And we saw that in 2020. There was a lot of organizations that were heavily into in-person events.
Mm-hmm.
That was all they did. And when everything shut down and you couldn't have an in-person event, they were really hurting because there wasn't a fundraiser for them. They were so geared towards events that they didn't know what to do. It was those organizations that had that solid individual donor base that was able to say, okay, well, we can't have the gala, but let's switch this up. Let's go back to our donors. At that time, I was a board member of a nonprofit, and we were like, we need money. And I was like, let's have an ungala. And they were like, what is that? And that was where you actually don't put on a gala, but you advertise it, you send out invitations, and then people donate as if they were coming to a gala. but you don't have a gala. And we had some really funny posts that went out and all. But in 2020, an ungala for us made $18,000,
Right.
which was, you know, a lot, when nothing was coming in, right?
Yeah. And it didn't cost what the gala cost either. So,
I actually figured it out. Our cost per dollar raised was a penny.
wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was. So those are the four challenges that I see.
Great. So you mentioned social media. What role does social media actually play in reaching donors, and what's the best way to do that?
Okay, well, there's a lot that you can do, but first of all, social media can help increase visibility. It's cost effective. It can build community and engagement. So those are just three things. There's lots of things social media can do, but let's focus on those three. So when you increase visibility, when you consider that Facebook has billions of people online, then you are going to find a very broad and diverse audience. And so that can really increase your visibility when you get that organic reach. It's also important to build your page or your groups or whatever with your ideal donor. And we'll talk about that under building community engagement. Getting ahead of myself. But right now, social media is probably one of the most cost effective places to build that visibility. And so you're going to be regularly posting and engaging on social media. And just make sure that what you're posting is relevant to the nonprofit's mission. And you want to make sure that you're keeping your audience informed and interested. And it can also help attract donors. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I said it was cost effective outreach. So you can get reach for free. That the whole pay to play is a myth. I've seen it and I've done it myself. I can get reach. It takes some effort, but you can do that for free. So that is definitely a budget friendly way of doing it. And then you can also, raise money online now, even through your website. I always suggest you go through your website. It's the one place on the internet that you have control over. You make the rules, you have control. So when you're doing the cost effective outreach, make sure that you're leveraging organic content strategies. If you are doing paid advertising, you are targeting the right people. And just being present and being there on a regular basis will do so much more for your reach than anything else. And then talked about building community and engagement. Social media really can help you foster a sense of community and engagement. And if you are building your page, your group, whatever it is online with your ideal audience, whether that's a client, a customer, a donor, whatever you've decided this particular page or group is going to cater to, building it with those people is going to give you so much more reach and engagement because you are tailoring your content to those people. And with social media, Facebook in particular, the algorithm will start to build what it's called lookalike audiences. So it takes the people that are in your group or on your page, it looks at all of them and says, what do they have in common? And then it builds a lookalike audience from those characteristics. And then it goes out there and says, okay, who do we have in our billions of people that fit this criteria? And then it starts putting posts into their feed. So that's how you get organic reach. So making sure that you are building whatever it is with your ideal donor is paramount if you want organic reach. But then making sure that you're finding and attracting them by putting out engaging posts. I see this all the time. Nonprofits just tend to fire hose something out on Facebook and you look at it and there's nothing to interact with. It's like there's no question that's asked. There's nothing that makes me want to like, comment, or share. And that's what you're going after. You want to make sure that you're putting stuff out there that people want to engage with. And that's what helps with organic reach.
Wonderful. So social media is very very cost-effective way of getting out there and getting awareness out there and even raising funds. Are there any other specific fundraising events or campaigns that have proven successful for attracting new donors?
There are, and I've got some ideas, but I want for people to understand that the most successful fundraiser is the one that appeals to your ideal donor. This is a concept you have to take the time to figure out, because everything you do in fundraising is going to revolve around that ideal donor. It's what makes it fundraising a success, because, I'm going to give you some ideas of event or campaigns, but just know that if your ideal donor isn't into it, it's not going to work. You're not going to attract those people and when I say ideal donor, that's the person most likely to give to your cause. So something that's really popular is the charity runs or walks. They can be very successful. I've put them on myself, and it does kind of open up to different groups of people in the community to come in and do something and kind of get to know your organization. And when you look at people who do walks, I mean, their income's usually about $75,000 a year. So you know what kind of person you're attracting, but you just have to make sure that that's something that makes sense for your nonprofit. So if you're an environmental nonprofit or a nature conservatory or something like that, a walk may be exactly what your people like, because they like being in nature. They like hiking. They like doing those things. An elderly type of cause may not be the right, it depends. I mean, Alzheimer's, I think, will do like memory walks. And so that's targeting loved ones that are able to do it. So just depends on your donor. But if you're doing a run walk, make sure that you secure a safe route. Make sure that you get all the licenses and permits and everything that you need. Some cities will require you to hire police officers for traffic control. So make sure you've got all that. Make sure you have your sponsorship, and then you're going to promote it heavily. So that's how you do that one. Galas and auctions. I mentioned the ungala. I've done a gala, and those can be very good. But here's where you have to be careful, because I was working for an organization that did a gala, and we were consistently doing about $40,000 a year with this gala. We could not break that $40,000 ceiling. We couldn't figure it out. And then we decided to bring in a celebrity, a name. And so we got, at the time, he was the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, Dan Reeves, and it blew up. I mean, I had people in the community calling me that we didn't know, saying, how can I get in? Can I just get one seat? I might not buy a table, but can I just get one seat? I just want to be in the room with this person, and we hit $100,000.
Wow.
So it really just depends on your audience. And we knew our audience was a big football crowd. As a matter of fact, we had Dan Reeves, we had Vince Dooley come in and his wife. So we started booking those football people in the state of Georgia that we knew that people would want to come see.
Right.
We had another campus in Columbus, Georgia, who their gala wasn't a night gala. It was a luncheon, because that's what that town does. And they had Jeff Foxworthy come in.
Wow.
And sales are boosted. So you really just got to know your audience, but that's some of the things. Some strategies: choose an appealing venue. If you do an auction, make sure that you have attractive auction items. Make sure that people know to go bid on them. And then make sure that your program is compelling. Make sure that you are telling the organization's story and its impact. You've got to have those emotional pleas in there.
Right.
And then crowdfunding. That's something that I think a lot of people are interested in, because crowdfunding is a lot like Giving Tuesday coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of falls into that category. So crowdfunding is really a digital campaign that can reach a wide audience, and it is designed for easy sharing, participation, and the donation amount that you ask is often lower. $5 Friday is another popular crowdfunding campaign I see. And that's where on Fridays, nonprofits put out there on Facebook. Well, I've seen like horse rescues. We need hay. If you could donate $5, we need 100 people to do that to raise $500 to feed our horses for a week or whatever it looks like for you. And that can be very successful. And you can get line items of your budget, low cost line items of your budget funded that way.
Right, right.
Yeah. So I have more, but we can move on to.
But I was just going to say, I think we're running out of time. Is there anything before we wrap up that you wanted to close with or wanted to mention that we haven't been able to get to?
Let's see. I think the biggest takeaway I'd like your audience to have is that you really have to understand your audience. You have to understand who that person is that is most likely to donate to you. Once you have that information, you have the key because you'll know then what kind of messaging to put out there. You'll know where to find them in the community. So you're not spending your time in places that they're not there, which is not only time effective, it's cost effective to do that. So anytime you're thinking about a fundraiser, you've got to understand who is coming to this event.
I think that's very sage advice and to help us with not only being successful, but to do it cost effectively. I think this has been great. Thank you, Alicia. As always, really appreciate all your insights and sharing your thoughts and recommendations with us today. I hope you enjoyed it.
I do. I always enjoy talking to you.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us today, especially Alicia for sharing. I hope this was helpful for you. And remember that creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. If you're dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, we'd love to help you cut through the noise.